So I'm Nahanni Fontaine. I'm the Special Advisor on Aboriginal Women's Issues for the Aboriginal Issues Committee of Cabinet of Manitoba. So I was politically appointed to advise the Premier and ministers in respect of everything that affects Aboriginal women and girls. Probably for the last, 18 years, I've done primarily advocacy. And advocacy takes many different forms. So early in my career, I've always worked in respect of Indigenous women, so fighting for Indigenous women's rights, advocating for Indigenous women for all the issues that affect us, and then went into also policing, so advocating for our people in respect of policing and policing relations in respect of Aboriginal people, coming into conflict with the law, and then the response from policing institutions. And now I specifically work in respect of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So I've been doing that work probably for the last, I don't even know, 15 years. And but in my role for the government, they had asked me to develop a strategy. So actually Manitoba is one of the only provinces that actually has a strategy on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. So we're actually into phase 3 of our strategy. And I work, the strategy does a bunch of things. One, it tries to deconstruct the women and the girls who have gone missing and murdered, because for many, many years, those of us that have been doing this work have tried to deconstruct, that narrative that they're prostitutes or they're whores or they put themselves at risk, right? It's a very blaming narrative. So we did some, campaigns. We've done murals. I work with, all kinds of stakeholders in trying to deconstruct that. I do a lot of public education. But primarily the important thing about my work is that it's very family centered. For instance, we have a Christmas party every year. So we're going into our 4th year where we do a Christmas party for our families, and we buy Christmas presents for all the little kids. And every time we do that, afterwards, I'm actually always left with this really deep sense. And maybe it's just yourself, you never know, but I'm always left with this deep sense that their loved ones were with us and that they were happy that their loved ones were together and were celebrating together. So Wiping Away the Tears Gathering it started in June of 2010. And that first initial gathering, I wasn't within government yet. And that first initial gathering, they had constructed it that they wanted to have an opportunity for family members to talk to government officials. And so I think they had about 8 family members, and Minister Eric Robinson was there along with some other elders and some other government staff. And those family members were able to share things that they needed. And last year was our 5th year. We had about 130. And coming out of Wiping Away the Tears, we had worked on a project for about 2 years, myself and advisory committee of family members on a monument dedication for families. So it's not just that we just gather and then we connect and all of that, but we actually do some really concrete work as well, so that we, together, all of us, produced a monument that's going to be there for the next 30, 40, 50 years in honor of their loved ones. I wanted to have a space as where we could connect families, because families go through such a unique experience and such a unique trauma that even the best of us don't fully and will never fully understand what they go through, ever. And so when I started talking to some of the family members, they were saying, yeah, like we want a monument. We want somewhere where we can go. So most people don't realize that if you have a loved one missing, you have nowhere to go. As human beings, we have this deep need to go somewhere when we've lost somebody. That's why we have graves, and that's why we've got these, headstones and all of that. It's in our nature as human beings that, to go and pay your respects and feel some type of closeness. Yeah. Families that have a missing loved one don't have that. Yeah. So not only do they not have closure, but they physically don't have anywhere to go because their loved one's not back. Mm-hmm. So we all agreed that, yeah, I would start working on this project for a monument. it took 2 years in total from the moment we started thinking about it till the moment of the unveiling. I had to submit, Treasury Board submission to get the dollars, Then I had to look at the space. And I said to my assistant, I said, find me who I need to speak to at the Forks. And so I sent this gentleman this email, and we agreed to meet. And I was thinking, because his email was kind of cold and whatever. Met him, and literally within 5 minutes, he gave the land. And he says, I know the perfect space for it. And so it's at the Forks. It's behind the Odenna. And it actually, most people don't know that it's actually situated right at the two rivers where we strategically did that. And the monument is a beautiful granite female figure. And so she goes like this, and there's boulders representing, our ancestors, representing the women and girls all around her. But in her center, she has a circle. And she is looking into the sacred circle in the Odenna, the sacred fire. So she's positioned perfectly looking at the sacred fire in Odenna. And, the families we went through a bunch of designs. And I remember when I first saw the first initial, I was given 5 designs. And we explained what the families were trying to do. And we were explaining the spirit of what we were trying to do. It's one thing to tell somebody, we're trying to do a monument for missing and murdered. But you have to get people to understand the spirit of it and to connect them spiritually to the issue. So we were trying to give place and space to these women and these girls that were once Manitoba citizens. They were here. They were Manitoba citizens, and they have as much right to be here as you and I, but they're not here, right? They were taken from us. The monument, right? So we wanted to be able to give place and space to the women that we've lost, but we wanted a monument that would educate the public, but we also wanted a monument that would connect the public. Mm-hmm. And so, not even a week later when Tina Fontaine's body was found, that was the connecting piece back there, was the monument that everybody kind of went there and had this vigil, but also, had a moment where they could connect with one another and could connect with all the women that have gone missing and murdered. So it's really, really, it was meant to be, and it's done. She has done her purpose. For me, everything, it all comes back to my own childhood, and living what I see families go through right now. Like my mom, from very early on was sexually exploited, probably around 13. She was raped at 12. She was sexually abused as a child. And then, was sexually exploited all across Canada. And, I grew up, she didn't know how to be a mom. And so, I had a really, really torturous childhood. Like, it was completely torturous. And, for me, at the end of the day, my mom passed away. She lived in Vancouver. She was working the streets on the downtown Lower East Side at the time of Picton. And, when she ended up dying of a heroin overdose. So I was 6 months pregnant. And when we got her body back in Saugeen, I remember looking down at her body and thinking, this is the reality for our women. Okay, not all of our women die of a heroin overdose, but this is the reality. Her ultimate death, and she died in the bathroom of the SkyTrain, alone, by herself, on the floor like a piece of shit. And for me, that is the reality of our women. That's the reality of colonization. That's the reality of being an Indigenous woman. That's changing, of course, right? So, all of the work that I do is because my mom never got that chance. And I almost didn't get that chance. like I'm so blessed. Like even though my life the childhood was so torturous and all of that blah, 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 blah stuff, I'm so blessed. And so all the work that I do is in honor of my mom, but in honor of really all the blessings that I have. And it's also in honor of, all the people that we've lost. So it's not only our women, right? We've lost so many men, we've lost so many elders, we've lost so many babies. And for what? Like really for what? For land, for resources, for whatever. Like we've lost generations and generations and generations of our people. So for me, the work that I do is in honor of them, which means as well, not drinking, not doing drugs. I really feel that, if you want to honor your ancestry, if you truly want to honor your ancestry, drinking and doing drugs that have killed our people or have, created the conditions that our women and our children get raped, you're just contributing to that in some respects. So, I don't do that as well. And, for younger women, we're so blessed right now. There's such a shift in generations. We're so proud to be Anishinaabe now. It's not shameful. And so that allows our youth to be in a space where they're like, yeah, I can do this and I'm Anishinaabe and I can do that. And so I think we're just on a much different path. I think it's still hard, but we're still on a good path just because of all the amazing, amazing youth that are coming up.